तिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। भक्ताकञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। भक्ताकञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। श्री प्रभुपाद की श्रीमती राधा रानी की जय। राधाष्टमी महामहोत्सव की जय। जय निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे। Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So very happy to be here with all of you today. And today we're celebrating a very, very beautiful day. Actually, everyone generally thinks Janmashtami is the highlight of the year, but we say Radhashtami is the after party. Because we know that without Radharani's mercy, there is no opportunity to get the favor of Krishna. When Srila Prabhupada was a young boy, then his father, Gaur Mohan Dey, whenever a sadhu would come to their home, then he would say, "You please pray for my son that he becomes a devotee of Srimati Radharani." Because actually Srimati Radharani is the worshipable deity, the worshipable personality of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Generally, when there is prasadam, if there are 12 items in the prasadam menu, how many are sweet? How many? 1, 2? Maybe 1 or 2. If there's 12 items, 1 or 2 are sweet, must be. So similarly, the Bhagavatam is 12 cantos, but one of those cantos is the very, very sweet canto. You can't have all 12 items sweet. Of course, if you're Gujarati, then you put sugar in everything anyway. Dal, everything has sugar. But ultimately, there's only one sweet. So the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam is very, very sweet. And if the Bhagavatam's 10th canto is like the cake, then the icing on the cake is the pastimes between Radharani and Krishna. Because in these pastimes we experience the equinox of love. Sometimes it's said that the 12 cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam are like Krishna's body, isn't it? And then we say the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna's smiling face. But some commentators, they say the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam is actually Krishna's heart. And if the 10th canto is Krishna's heart, then there's 5 chapters in the 10th canto which are very, very special. Chapter number 21 is called Venu Geet, the song of the flute. Chapter number 31 is known as Gopi Geet, The song of the Gopis. Chapter number 35 is known as the Yugala Geet, the song of the divine couple. This is the chapter once the rasa dance is over and Krishna leaves and the Gopis go and they are singing. And then chapter number 39 is a very, very painful chapter because it's known as Viraha Geet, the song of separation. And then chapter number 47 is entitled, what is it entitled? Bhramara Geet, the song of the bee. Because that's when Uddhav Ji comes back to Vrindavan to give a message and Radharani is speaking to the bee. So if the 10th canto is the heart of Krishna, then these 5 chapters are said to be the 5 life heirs of Krishna. Because in these 5 chapters of the Bhagavatam, we hear about the pastimes of love that are exchanged between Krishna, the Gopis, and ultimately Srimati Radharani. You see, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said, Vaishnavas are worshippers of Vishnu or Krishna. Vishnu, he said. Karshnas are worshippers of Krishna. But Gaudiyas are worshippers of Srimati Radharani. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur once made a very controversial statement. He said most people are interested in Radharani because of her connection with Krishna. But we are interested in Krishna only because of his connection with Radharani. You see, the Gaudiyas, they are in the camp of Radharani. They are in Radharani's team. They are on Radharani's side. One of the Vaishnava poets, he says, Krishna, you will be glorified for generations for lifting Govardhan hill. But the world will never glorify the gopis who carried you in their heart for so long when you left Vrindavan. The Vaishnava poets say, Krishna, you are ready to forgive the aparadhikas. Aparadhikas means the offenders. So the Vaishnava poet says, Krishna, you are ready to forgive the aparadhika. But then the Vaishnava poet looks at Krishna and says, but Krishna, if you become aparadhika, if you keep a distance from Srimati Radharani, then we will never forgive you. So therefore, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they are always in the camp of Srimati Radharani because they know that Srimati Radharani is the ultimate epitome of love. There's only one thing greater than God, and that is love for God. And if love of God was to ever have a personification, then that personification would be Srimati Radharani. Most of the world did not know about the glories of Srimati Radharani. In fact, even Krishna didn't understand the full glory of Srimati Radharani. Therefore, Krishna had to come to this world as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You see, in this world, if there is a very, very powerful devotee, then they can make anyone else into a devotee, isn't it? The more powerful they are as a devotee, the more they can make anyone a devotee. But Srimati Radharani is such a powerful devotee that she can make God a devotee. That's how powerful Srimati Radharani is. They say if you ever find a theology where the devotee cries for God, then you must understand it's very advanced. But if you find a theology where God cries for the devotee, then you must understand it's more advanced. But if you ever find a theology where God becomes a devotee to cry for himself, then you can understand this is off the scale. This is Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And therefore, Krishna comes as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Radha Bhava Dyuti Suvalitam Krishna Nomi Swarupam. He comes in the Radha Bhav. He comes to experience what is it that Srimati Radharani is experiencing when she comes. What is going on in her heart? One time Srila Prabhupada was walking on Laguna Beach, and as they were walking, Srila Prabhupada looked out in the ocean and he saw a surfer. So Prabhupada asked one of the disciples, "What is this?" The devotee said, "Prabhupada, this is a surfer." Prabhupada said, "No, sufferer." And then they walked a little bit further, and then Prabhupada stopped and he said, "Did you hear?" He said, "Yes, Prabhupada, that's the waves." Prabhupada said, No, that's the sound of Srimati Radharani's heartbeat when she goes to meet Krishna. That is the sound of Srimati Radharani's heartbeat. Srimati Radharani is showing us how to love Krishna. If you want to love Krishna, Srila Prabhupada says you have to learn the art of how to cry for Krishna. You see, in our life we cried for so many things, isn't it? Last Christmas I gave you my heart, and the very next day you threw it away. She broke my heart, he broke my heart. Crying, crying, crying for so many material things, so many lamentations, so many regrets, crying. Madhvacharya, he says, if you would add up all of the tears that the conditioned soul has shed for lifetimes, it would be enough to fill an ocean. But our teachers tell us, you have to learn the art of how to cry for Krishna. Because if you cry for Krishna, Krishna has to come. When a husband and a wife are having an argument, I don't have personal experience, but I've observed. Second-class intelligence you can learn by observing. When there is an argument between the husband and wife, there's something that the wife can do which is like game over. Once she does this, argument finished. What is that? Starts crying. Once the wife starts crying, it doesn't matter how illogical it is. You have to just give up. So Krishna is Purusha and we are Prakriti. We are all female. And if we want to conquer Krishna, if we want to conquer Krishna's heart, then we have to cry for Krishna. You see, when Krishna left the Rasa dance and the gopis were searching after Krishna, then they sung the Gopi Geet, isn't it? Tavakathamritam tapta jivanam kaviviriditam kalmashavaham Shravana Mangalam Srimadatam Bhuvi Pranantiye Bhurida Jana. They sang these beautiful verses explaining the separation they were feeling from Krishna. But did Krishna come after they sang the Gopi Geet? Did he? Do you remember? Did they come? Did he come? No. But what happened after they sung the Gopi Geet is they went onto the banks of the Yamuna. And on the banks of the Yamuna, they began crying. Crying and crying and crying. Krishna, where are you? You left us. And when they began crying, Krishna had to come. Therefore, there is the cry of the samsarika, the one who is entangled in material existence. But then there is the cry of the sadhaka, the one who's desperately seeking Krishna. And ultimately there is the cry of the siddha, the supreme, perfected devotee in the spiritual world who knows the art of how to cry for Krishna. So we must develop this desperation. You know, nowadays I'm traveling around the world, so practically every few days I'm in an airport. And then I have to take a flight. And when you're 6'5" tall, then you have to try to get the emergency seat. You need some leg room after all. So every time when I take a flight, I try to get the emergency seat, a bit more comfort. So usually nowadays, 8 out of 10, I have a success rate. So one day I came into an airplane, we were flying to Cairo on Egypt Air. So I was in the emergency seat and it was amazing. There was no one there, so I thought, brilliant, whole flight, all the leg room, all the space. This is Vaikuntha. And then just as the plane was closing, the last few passengers came in and one big family came and they filled up all the seats. Now the emergency seat is very, very good because you get a lot of leg room. But there's one very dangerous thing about the emergency seat. You know what it is? Who usually hangs around the emergency seats? Babies. Yeah, babies. Because they have the top way, no? So everything was good. And then as the flight was going onto the runway, crying. This baby, I thought, oh no. All the leg room in the world, but now I have to listen to this crying the whole flight. The cry of the samsarika, distress. Then Krishna inspired me. Why this? Because I remembered, Srila Prabhupada said, when you chant Hare Krishna, you should chant like the cry of a child for the mother. So what I did is I closed my eyes, and every time the child cried, Hare Krishna, chanting my japa, trying to internalize the cry of the baby in my chanting for Krishna. So every time it cried, I just closed my eyes and chanted like crying for Krishna. And it was very beautiful actually. You try it out next time, see if it works for you. And when that flight landed, I said, may the cry of the samsarika become the cry of the sadhaka, so that one day it can be the cry of the siddha in the spiritual world. Because we have to learn the art of how to cry for Krishna. So Radharani is the one who has so much desperation for Krishna. Radha. Ra means rag. Dha means bhavati, to run. So Radha literally means one who is running after her attachment for Krishna. For us, we are not running towards Krishna. The devotees are trying to drag us towards Krishna, isn't it? Prabhu, are you coming to the program? No, I'm tired. No, you come. So we are unwilling. But Radha is the one who has so much desperation for Krishna. The one who worships Krishna the best. Anayaradhito nunam Bhagavan Harishwara Tanno Vihaya Govinda Tanno Pitaraha. Some say, where is Radharani's name in Bhagavatam? She is not mentioned anywhere. But they don't know the secret. That Sukadeva Goswami was scared. He was scared to mention the name Radha. Because he knew, if I mention the name Radha, then maybe I'll go into ecstasy. And for me that will be fine. But for Parikshit, he only has 7 days. So if I go into ecstasy, 7 days will go like this. So better I don't say the name Radha. But actually, the commentators say he mentioned it in this verse. Anayaradhito nunam Bhagavan Hari Ishvara. There was one gopi amongst all the other gopis. And Anayaradhito, the way she worshipped Krishna, the way she loved Krishna, the desperation that she had for Krishna was like no one else. She was unparalleled. So Srimati Radharani is the great inspiration for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, because she has given everything to Krishna. Once she made a prayer, Srimati Radharani said, when I leave this world, when I leave this body is made up of 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air and ether. When I leave this body, may the earth element of my body mix with the dust of Braj, so Krishna will constantly step on it. When the water element of my body, once I leave, may that water merge with the Yamuna, so that Krishna can bathe in those cooling waters. The fire element of my body, may it merge with the flame that Krishna uses to see himself when he decorates himself with